This conference will now be recorded.
All right, why don't we, we can get started then. And if we don't have a quorum for the minutes, we'll wait until we have one. And we can do the statewide long-range plan update in the meantime. But welcome everyone to this meeting of the Montachusett Metropolitan Planning Organization. My name is Derek Cravat from the Massachusetts Department of Transportation. Be chairing the meeting today representing MassDOT Secretary Monica Tibbetts-Nutt. We can go ahead and get started here with introductions. Are you going to be calling the roll, Brian?
Yeah, and it looks like we do have a quorum. If I miss anyone, please let me know. We have Derek Cravat representing Monica Tibbetts-Nutt, Mass DOT Secretary and CEO.
Yep, Derek Cravat is here. Thank you.
Ian Sullivan representing Jonathan Gulliver, Mass DOT Highway Division.
Yep.
Mark P. Marini, Leominster.
Here.
Glenn Eaton, MRPC.
I'm here, so I'm going to defer to Laura Schifrin, who's here to represent MRPC, and I'll be doing the report later, Brian. Thank you, sir.
Okay, hi, Laura. Rosemary Meisner, Subregion 2.
Here.
And Tim Kilhart, Subregion 3.
Here.
Okay, we do have a quorum, and again, if I'll look to see who else hops on in the process, and I think we're good for now.
All right, great. Welcome everybody. Move on to the next item, which is the approval of March 20th, 2024 meeting minutes. Is there a motion and second to approve those minutes? And please state your name for the record when making a motion.
Laura Schifrin, I make the motion to approve the minutes of March 20th, 2024.
Yep.
I'll second, Ann Sullivan.
All right, thank you. Motion having been made and seconded, are there any comments or questions on the meeting minutes? All right, seeing none, go ahead and call the roll, Brian.
Derek Cravat, Mass DOT.
Yes.
Ian Sullivan, Mass DOT Highway.
Yes.
Mark P. Marini, Leominster.
Yes.
Laura Schifrin, MRPC.
Yes.
Rosemary Meisner, Subregion 2.
Yes.
And Tim Kilhart, Subregion 3.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, that passes. Thank you.
Great, thanks everyone. Move on to the next item, which I think is the statewide long-range transportation plan update. Now, this has been a standing item for a while. We actually do have an update now to share. So I have a presentation that I will be giving actually. So I'm happy to share my screen, Brian, whatever works is easiest. I will just okay. Can you see that okay?
Yep, looks good.
Okay. All right, excellent. Make this full screen here. So great. Well, this is an update for everyone on our statewide long-range transportation plan, which is called Beyond Mobility. We've been working on this plan for about 2 years now, and it's now currently out for public comment. It's on our website now, so folks can review the plan. I'm just going to provide some background on the plan and give you a little sense of the content of the plan as well, what's in it. And you can, of course, feel free to provide any comments here or through the form we have on our website. So just for background, every state is required to develop a statewide long-range transportation plan. It is a federal requirement. There's no regular update to this, the same way there is for regional transportation plans, which have to be updated every 4 years. There's not any set deadline like that in the regulations for statewide plans. So they're a little bit less frequent. The last statewide transportation plan was actually updated here in Massachusetts in 2014. So this is only the second statewide long-range plan for MassDOT that has ever existed since we formed as a unified agency in 2009. So we feel like this is a good opportunity to update it something that's a bit overdue to sort of set the strategy for the future of transportation in Massachusetts. And so, like I mentioned, the plan is out for public comment. It's open until May 31st, so that's certainly available online as well. Just to put this into a little bit of context, this is a really important plan for us at MassDOT. Our leadership has identified these three pillars of an overall strategy called MassDOT 15. I mentioned that MassDOT formed, as you can see, in 2009, so this year commemorates our 15th anniversary as an agency. And there are three overarching initiatives going on that kind of comprise the larger MassDOT at 15 initiative. One is, of course, Beyond Mobility, what I'll be presenting here today, and that really defines what MassDOT does and the vision for the future of transportation in Massachusetts. The second is the strategic business plan, which will define staffing and organizational needs and really develop kind of a plan for the workforce of our transportation agency. And then third is the Transportation Funding Task Force, which folks may have heard about. This is something that the governor has created and has appointed our secretary to be chair of. And there's a number of other appointees that are serving on this task force. And their kind of mission is to really identify funding needs for the next generation of future transportation investments. So taken together, MassDOT at 15, Beyond Mobility is kind of what we do, the strategic business plan is who we are, and the funding task force is how we will pay for the future of transportation. So specifically on Beyond Mobility, we've been doing a lot of public engagement over the past 18 months for this. The plan itself is based largely on public input. We really wanted to create a statement of sort of vision statement for the future of transportation that's based directly on challenges people are facing getting around, and making sure what we're proposing as our overall strategy is directly in line with what we're hearing out in communities across Massachusetts. So we heard from over 5,000 people in developing this plan through a combination of public surveys with a focus on our gateway cities and environmental justice communities, as well as things like our pop-up activations like you see on the side here, where we had folks go out and meet people where they were and get feedback there. We combine this with more quantitative data and staff sort of input as well at the agency. And we feel like what we heard back and what we analyzed fell under the umbrella of these 6 overarching priority areas. So, you know, people's vision for the future challenges with transportation, I think, you know, are represented by at least one of these kind of categories. And those are safety, reliability, which refers to sort of travel time and being able to predict how long it will take you to get around, supporting clean transportation, destination connectivity, resiliency, and travel experience. And then social equity and financial and staffing resources are considered cross-cutting themes. So these underlie all 6 of these areas. And each one of these 6 priority areas in the final plan has with it a vision statement, a set of value statements, as well as problem statements and key facts, and then action items associated with it. So we have over 100 action items in the final plan that fall under all 6 of these priority areas. So those are things we are going to be doing in the future to address what we heard from the public and through our analysis that we know are issues that we need to be doing more on. So the next 6 slides just give a sense of one problem statement and one corresponding action item that relate to each of the 6 priority areas, just to give you a sense of what's in the plan and the content. So for safety, right, we know that 142 of our top 200 pedestrian crash cluster locations are in environmental justice communities. We know that there's been historic disinvestment in these same communities, right? This is a statewide problem that our gateway cities and EJ areas are much less safe. It's borne out in the data. It's something we heard a lot of during our public outreach. And it's something that you know, we know we need to do more on. And so our action item here is to build build a bench of projects, safety projects, specifically in our environmental justice areas, and kind of formalize that slate of projects within a capital investment plan program focused on bicycle and pedestrian safety. So right now we have general programs focused on safety, but we don't have a dedicated program for this specifically in areas that we know are disproportionately impacted by higher crash rates. And so that's something we're calling for within this plan. Within reliability area, our quantified problem statement here is that according to our analysis we did, we use something called the planning time index, which shows kind of how much people have to buffer for traveling at different times of day. And during peak periods, people have to plan for their trips taking up to 8 times longer than they do during free flow times. And talking to people, this is top of mind. I think there's a sense that we are at a bit of a crisis point when it comes to reliability, not only when it comes to congestion, but thinking about traveling on transit and delays and speed restrictions and slow zones on transit and those sorts of things, right? There's definitely a sense out there that there's fragmentation, there's lack of connections and just reliability challenges. And so our action items here are to kind of coordinate better between our highway division and transit agencies, both regional transit authorities and MBTA, to identify potential roadway investments that will improve transit reliability. And this, especially, in areas that are maybe denser, that we know we can do more transit priority work on roadways. That's something we're looking to do. The second action item highlighted here is that we'll be looking into roadway pricing, sometimes referred to as congestion pricing, right? This is something we know is happening in places like New York and globally, and other cities that experience similar levels of congestion that we do. The plan is calling for this just as a starting point to study the issue, so we know what options we have at our disposal, and this is something that the task force will be looking into a lot more closely as well. On clean transportation, we know that transportation is the largest contributor of carbon emissions in Massachusetts. And so we're committing again to electrification targets that were established both for transit and vehicles. These were established through the clean energy and climate plans through our Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. So we're not trying to reinvent the wheel on any existing electrification targets, but we are saying in the plan that, right, if we are going to achieve our climate goals, the transportation component needs to be about more than just electrification, right? We need to be encouraging mode shift and getting people out of single occupancy vehicles and into transit. So we are highlighting that as an important value. And we're also calling for a study that looks at areas that may be well suited for things like zoning and land use reform, right? Thinking about this holistically, a lot of the reason people choose to drive somewhere or walk, not take other modes is, has a lot to do with not just transportation, but where people are going, right? And if where they're going is within walking distance or a transit trip. And so land use is a really important part of this as well, and the sort of coordination between land use and housing and transportation. And so we're calling for a study that will really look at kind of where we can encourage more transit-oriented development, housing, especially as we're thinking about expanded passenger rail through West-East Rail, through Northern Tier coming, as that planning study unfolds, and other initiatives to look at where there might be more demand for passenger rail and transit, and where we can maybe target for land use and zoning changes as in tandem with that. On destination connectivity, our problem statement here is that we know our environmental justice communities have actually fewer planned investments right now for bicycle pedestrian improvements than other communities, even though, like I mentioned earlier, these same places have higher crash rates in these areas. So here we're calling for a dedicated program in our capital plan that would really focus on providing multimodal connections to transit, right? We don't currently have that, but we know it's a huge need, right? We see kind of these images and hear stories of folks kind of going to bus stops that are on 4-lane highways that feel really unsafe to access. And so, we know that there's a need to better dedicate resources toward providing safer and more convenient connections to places like transit stops and critical destinations. So that's something we're highlighting and calling for a new, more dedicated program for in our capital plan. On resiliency, we know that there's significant infrastructure exposed to natural hazards, right? Last fall, we saw those storms. This is a photo of one of those here, right? In this region, right? That really had a lot of roadway damage as a result of those massive storms. So, what we're documenting in the plan, how many roadway miles are at risk at different levels of flooding, how many transit stops and stations are at risk as well due to different levels of flooding and things like sea level rise. And there's been a lot of work done on this at the state level. There's Resilient Mass, the Climate Chiefs report that recently came out last fall as well. So again, we're being consistent with a lot of what's in those plans, but we're also calling for a newer action item that we'll be looking to collaborate with other state agencies on maybe using funding we have available at MassDOT to fund resiliency projects that come through other programs like the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program, which is a really competitive program run by Energy and Environmental Affairs, one of our state agency partners, but that they don't have maybe sufficient funds to fund everything that comes through there. So if there's transportation projects, right, we want to collaborate with them and look at maybe resources we might have at MassDOT to support those projects as well. So that's one thing we're calling for in the area of resiliency. And then finally on travel experience, something we heard really frequently in our outreach is that people with disabilities and people who do not speak English as a first language in particular reported a significant need for things like improved wayfinding signage and better information on kind of sort of ride options, traveler information, etc. So we are calling for here a study that would look at where there may be transit stops and stations and other kinds of traveler information that don't currently have sufficient wayfinding signage, especially in areas where we know there are concentrations of limited English proficient communities. So again, that's something we're looking into closely as a result of this plan as well. And this is the last slide, just again promoting the public comment period. The plan is on our website at mass.gov/beyond-mobility. It's open through May 31st, 2024. So there's a survey form you can fill out to send us a comment. And we're, of course, I'm the project manager for it, so certainly can always contact me as well. But this is the sort of website where you can view the plan. So that's the last slide, and yeah, happy to take any questions if folks have any or any comments. So thank you. I'm gonna stop sharing here, but are there any questions? All right, don't see any. So with that, then we can move on to, oh, so sorry, my screen got, I don't see it. Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is the 2024-2028 Transportation Improvement Program, amendment number 5. I'll turn it over to Brian.
Okay, so before we get into the 25 through 29 tip development, which we've been discussing over the last few months, we actually have an amendment to the current active tip in federal fiscal year 2024. So this is amendment number 5. We have this letter of interested parties. It explains the process a little bit and a little bit about the project and a summary for this group to review. So this is in regards to a project in 2024 currently listed on the state priority section. It's in Athol, project 608-723, intersection improvements at Crescent Street, Chestnut Hill Avenue. DOT reached out to us and indicated a need for a cost increase due to additional hazmat disposal items involved with the project. So the current value of this project is $8,434,367. The new proposed value will be $9,599,783, which is an increase of $1,165,416, approximately 14%. So what we're looking for today is a motion to release this proposed amendment number 5 for a 21-day public comment period. That comment period will last from this coming Friday, April 19th through Friday, May 10th.
Great, thanks, Brian. Before I ask for a motion, are there any questions on this amendment? All right, seeing none, I'll ask for a motion and second to release this for a 21-day public comment period as presented.
George Kahale, I make a motion to release this amendment for 21 days for public comment.
George, is there a second?
I'll second Ann Sullivan.
Second, Mark Pimmarini.
All right, thank you. Motion having been made and seconded, go ahead and call the roll.
Derek Cravat, Mass DOT.
Yes.
Ann Sullivan, Mass DOT Highway.
Yes.
Mark Pimmarini, Leominster.
Yes.
Laura Schifrin, MRPC.
Yes.
Rosemary Meisner, Subregion 2.
Yes.
And Tim Kilhart, Subregion 3.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Move on to, oh, George, do you?
You missed me.
Oh,
Oh, George, sorry about that. George Kahali, Mark.
Yes,
Sorry, George.
all right,
thank you.
And thank you for the motion.
all right. So I think the next item is the next tip, the 2025 to 2029 tip. So turn it back over to you, Brian.
Okay, thank you. So we've been anticipating the April meeting over the last several months when we've been discussing this tip process, the 25 to 29 tip. As we have been planning to the whole time, we have a draft document available. We're going to ask the MPO release this document for a public comment period. It'll be the same period as the previous item, the amendment to the current tip. It'll last from April 19th through May 10th. And actually, this is a letter to interested parties regarding both the 25 through 29 tip, draft tip, and also the 2025 Unified Planning Work Program, another draft document that we'll be reviewing with the next item. So you should have received the full tip document with the mailing that went out last week. As you can see, it's much more than just the project list we've been reviewing for the last few months. It's about 140 pages long. There's a lot of analysis and required reporting within the document. However, it is the same projects that we've been reviewing. I think last month we had the chance to review all the transit projects as well as the state priority projects, along with our target section projects, which MPO has discretion over placement. So I'll quickly review the projects that are within the document, and then what we're looking for is a motion to release for a public comment period. As far as the transit projects go, again, this is a priority set by the Transit Authority. We reviewed the same list last month. It's unchanged. Includes the same 5 federal fiscal years as the highway projects, 2025 to 29. And I won't review every project within, but includes things like vehicle purchases, facility upgrades, facility maintenance, operating assistance. There's a number of different projects to review. Again, this is what's included with the draft. One portion that we haven't had the chance to review yet are state priority projects, which are actually carried within another region, but they have some component of the Montachusett region. So these projects are actually carried within another region's tip document. There are 2 such projects. We'll actually include this in the appendix of the tip, just to acknowledge that they exist and that they're being planned and built. We have Harvard in 2026 in the Montachusett region, along with Littleton, Acton, Concord in the Boston MPO region. This is a sign replacement project on Route 2. And we have Athol in the Montachusett region in 2028, along with Orange in the Franklin region, a bridge replacement, Logan Road over the East Branch of the Tully River. So this will be carried in the Franklin Regional Council of Governments tip document. So again, you won't see these in the region-wide sections in our document, but they will be in the appendix. As for the highway projects, up to this point, we've sort of had 2 different discussions on these projects. We've discussed the target section projects, again, where we have discretion over placement, and the statewide section. The target section projects are listed in what you see here as Section 1A, regional prioritized projects. So these are the projects that we've been having discussions over. This is what we've been calling the target section. All the other sections you see underneath this are the state priority sections. So this is how it's displayed in the draft document. So a little bit different from what we're used to, but essentially the same projects we've been reviewing. Just to give you an indication of what happened over the last month, in March, this group reviewed some different scenarios in the target section. We settled on what we called scenario number 3 for projects in the target section. We ended up developing that into the draft document, and that remains unchanged. You'll see the same project list. There is one difference with the project cost, and I'll go over that. The state priority section projects, these are all Mass DOT priorities, and these are unchanged as well from last month. They're relatively unchanged from what you see on the current active tip. In 2025, for the target section projects, we have Leominster reconstruction of Route 12, along with Harvard resurfacing box widening on Air Road. So again, this is the target section. One major difference you may notice is the Leominster project has seen a dramatic cost increase. This just came to our attention over the last few weeks or so. Last month when we reviewed these projects, this was a $21 million project. It's seen some changes. We've been anticipating changes for a while with this project. Currently, it's listed as $30,933,337. So a large increase. The reason for that is additional disposal costs, again, with the hazmat disposal needs. There are additional retaining walls and bridge costs involved with the project. Street lighting was added, and also just overall changes in unit prices since it's last been calculated. So unit prices in pavement, milling, excavation, and drainage as well. So that's the major difference you'll see on this list as compared with last month. This Harvard project, the other project in 2025 in the target section, is advanced constructed over 2 construction seasons. You'll see that in 2026 as well as 25. As for the statewide projects, we have Hubbardston Bridge Replacement, Williamsville Road over Burnshot River, and Sterling stormwater drainage improvements at Wachusett Reservoir, Gardner, Elm Street, resurfacing and sidewalk improvements, and Fitchburg, Leominster, Twin Cities Rail Trail construction phase 2. In 2026, for the target section, we have the second half of the Harvard project, resurfacing and box widening on Air Road, along with Ashburnham Road rehab on 101. And that does it for the target section projects. Statewide priorities, we have Athol Bridge Replacement, Route 2A, Main Street over the Boston and Maine Railroad, and Harvard Lancaster Bridge Replacement, Jackson Road over the Nashua River. Fitchburg improvements at Memorial Middle School. It's a safe routes to school project, and the second half of the Fitchburg Leominster Twin Cities Rail Trail construction phase 2. In 2027, target section, we have Athol intersection improvements at 2A and Brookside Road, Templeton reconstruction of Route 68, and Clinton reconstruction of Sterling Street, Route 62. Statewide priorities, there are 2 Fitchburg Ashby resurfacing related work on Route 31, along with Gardner bike path bridge construction, North Central Pathway over Route 140. In 2028, 3 target section projects. The second half of the Templeton Route 68 project is advanced constructed over 2 seasons, along with Fitchburg reconstruction of John Fitch Highway and Sterling intersection improvements at 140 and 62. The statewide priorities, we have Leominster Lancaster pavement preservation related work on Route 2, along with Petersham culvert replacement on New Salem Road over an unnamed brook. The final year we have for target section 2029, Air Road rehab on Route 2A and 111. This is the one downtown. In Winchendon, we have intersection improvements at Blair Square and Athol sidewalk installation along Templeton Road. And just one statewide priority project in 29 is Gardner Bridge Rehab, Mill Street over Baker Brook. So I did want to make special mention. We've had a lot of discussions over project readiness in regards to the target section projects. We ended up moving Harvard up 1 year from where it is currently on the active tip in 2026 and 2027. We moved that up 1 year to 2025, 26. We felt it was much more ready than some of the other projects on the list. This gave us the best chance to use up those funds in 2025. We've been in contact with the town of Harvard, and There are still some concerns on project readiness for 25. They've been planning on 2026 this whole time. They're trying to make things happen so it'll be ready a year earlier, so we won't miss out on those funds for the region. So we want to be cognizant of that. And I do want to make special mention that if things don't work out, our suggestion would be to move this project back no more than 1 year back into where it originally was in 2026. So I felt that should be read into the minutes and the discussion that we've had throughout the last few months. So it is relevant in this discussion. So with that being said, this is the draft tip as it exists right now. We're looking for a motion to send this out for a 21-day public comment period starting Friday, April 19th through Friday, May 10th. The plan is to come back in May and review any of the comments that we received in the comment period and have a vote for endorsement of the tip.
Great. Thank you, Brian. It's a good overview. Are there any questions for Brian before I ask for that motion? All right. Seeing none, with that, I'll ask for a motion and second to release the draft 2025 to 2029 tip out for a public comment period as described by Brian.
Laura Schifrin, I so move.
Thank you. Is there a
Second, Ann Sullivan.
All right, thank you. Motion having been made and seconded. Go ahead and call the roll, Brian.
Derek Cravat, Mass DOT.
Yes.
Ann Sullivan, Mass DOT Highway.
Yep.
Mark Piamarini, Leominster.
Yes.
Laura Schifrin, MRPC.
Yes.
George Kahali, Mart.
Yes.
Rosemary Meisner, Subregion 2.
Yes.
And Tim Kilhart, Subregion 3.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Yeah, thank you, everyone. And yeah, great job to Brian and the team. You know, it's a ton of work to put the tip together every year. So appreciate
Yeah,
all
thanks to everyone at the MPO. They've been listening to these boring reports every month, but it's a major reason why the MPO exists to approve this federal document. So thank you, everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. We'll move on to the next item then, which is the fiscal year 2025 Unified Planning Work Program. I'll turn it over to Sherry.
Just like we've been talking about the TIP for the last couple months, we've also been talking about the UPWP for the last 4 or so months. So we have the draft ready to go for to be released for public comment. Brian, could you pull up the budget? Do you have the budget sheet? Perfect. All right, so we have what we've gone over the past couple months. So January, we started with the review of the UPWP development schedule and soliciting communities for potential projects. February, we did the geographic and special populations equity analysis regarding projects that occurred within the last 5 years. Last month, in March, we proposed a project listing similar to the one on the budget there, and then went over with further information for the selected community-specific projects. And now for this month, we're doing the proposed budget, which is on the screen, along with the final task list. So for this 2025 UPWP, we were given a budget of $1,003,982, which is just over 60, just about under $60,000 more than the previous year. So what I'd like to do is just briefly, I know some of you have been around for a while, but just for the ones who have not, I'm going to go over not specific information for each task, but the overall general consensus of the task categories. So management and support, which is all the one numbers starting with 1. It's so 1.1, we have support of 3C, which is most of our work that we do under the MassDOT contract, and the 3C stands for Comprehensive, Cooperative, and Continuing, which is our planning efforts. Unified Planning Work Program is what we're working on now. So we review, amend, propose the Unified Work Program every single year for the upcoming year. The Public Participation Program, we are actually actively working on an update to our public participation plan now, so you can expect a draft of that to be presented towards the fall of this year. And 1.4 is development of the TIP. So that's what Brian was reviewing, any amendments, adjustments, and all the work that goes into the TIP every year. 1.5 is environmental justice and Title VI work. So every year we do a Title VI report for MassDOT, as well as anything that's related to working with environmental justice communities and populations. So the twos include highway surveillance. That's a lot of our data gathering. So our regional demographics and model, where we collect and update any demographic data, including projection data, critical infrastructure, climate impact assessments, things like that. 2.2 is GIS mapping and analysis. This is all the work that our GIS staff does in support of all of our transportation efforts. So our Mr. Mapper web application that's on our website, if you haven't seen that, you should definitely check it out. It has a lot of valuable information and demographic information in there. Data collection and analysis program, that's all of our traffic counting, pavement management, crash information, and things like that. Let's see, pavement management system. The objective of that task is to continue our regional efforts to maintain a pavement management program for federal aid eligible roads. And then 2.5 performance measures. So we're tracking data based off of the statewide performance measures, as well as the ones identified in the RTP. So all the threes are the transportation plan. That's most of our significant projects that we work on are community specific project as well as regional. So the first one is multimodal connections. This is actually a community request from Ashby. As I reviewed last month, they requested us to work on a like a multimodal type connections project within their town center, as like connecting all of their major like assets like their town hall and library and schools, as well as connecting to Mount Watatic. 3.2 climate change and resiliency. This one is getting a little bit more revamped this year, where we're going to include mapping on major roadways and rail lines within flood zones, assess flood vulnerability of identified roads and rail lines, and then also conducting greenhouse gas analysis of applicable TIP projects and such. Corridor analysis. This was a community request from Townsend along Route 119 in the area of North Middlesex High School. And then the freight study, which were requests from Ashburnham, Harvard, and Westminster, where we're going to help collect freight data and do some analysis in their heavy freight areas of their communities where there's concern. And last but not least, we have our multimodal planning activities, which are all the fours. So we have our transportation equity and public involvement, where we will represent MART at various meetings, such as MJTC and MRPC monthly meetings. We can document, review, and data gather where appropriate for the transit authority. 4.2, future of mobility. This is a continued efforts towards a transportation master plan, where we're going to rely heavily on public participation and engagement through intensive monthly meetings. We've actually started that recently, and they've been going great. So we wanted to continue that momentum so that we can actually have a final product and then a game plan to move forward in achieving some of the goals that are identified at these meetings. Then second to last one, technical assistance to MART, just broadly providing technical planning assistance to MART as needed. And then the final one is transit planning and operational assistance, where we are going to provide assistance to MART in efforts to modernize and improve its public transit service within the region, specifically with a goal to improve bus route routing and scheduling with things like ADA accessibility at bus stops, analyzing ridership data, and proposed service recommendations. Does anyone have any questions on any of those tasks? I know it's a whole lot of information all at once, but most of them are typical tasks that we do every year, year to year. The community specific ones do tend to change.
Any questions?
Okay.
Okay.
So
Nope.
just like the TIP, we're looking to release this document for a 21-day public comment period as well.
Great. Thank you, Sherry. Yeah, with that, Yeah, I'll ask for a motion and second to release the fiscal year 2025 UPWP up for public comment.
Laura Schifrin, a motion to put out for public comment.
I second.
All right, thank you. Motion having been made and seconded, go ahead and call the roll, Marion.
Derek Cravat, Mass DOT.
Yes.
Ian Sullivan, Mass DOT Highway.
Yes.
Mark Piamarini, Leominster.
Yes.
Laura Schifrin, MRPC.
Yes.
George Kahali, Mart.
Yes.
Rosemary Meisner, Subregion 2.
Yes.
And Tim Kilhart, Subregion 3.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you, everyone. And yeah, great job, Sherry and team to get it to this point. Looking forward to looking at it while it's out for comment, and certainly we'll get you all some feedback from our team as well. But yeah, all right. Well, I think that wraps up the formal agenda. So we'll move on to updates. We have MassDOT Districts 2 and 3. Is Daryl?
Yes, good afternoon. It's Daryl in District 2. So for projects in current FY24, we've got project 608723. This is the Athol intersection improvements at Crescent Street and Chestnut Hill Ave. Design is at PS&E. Review comments were completed on March 7th. And next milestone, where permitting approvals are pending, and we're awaiting revised 1 submission, which is due any day. This was due this week. And then we've got in FY25, but this is the project being proposed for 26. This is a 612151. This is the Athol Bridge replacement, Route 2A, Main Street over the B&M Railroad. Design is at pre-25. Preliminary structures report, resubmission, review comments were completed in December, and we're waiting for the 25% design, which is due in September, on September 17th this year, according to the latest schedule. Next in 26, which is being proposed for 27 and AC to 28. This is project 608424. This is the Templeton reconstruction of Route 68 from King Philip Trail north to the Phillipston Town Line. Design is at 75% per the latest schedule. Revised 75% Rev 2. Right-of-way plans were due on February 3rd. We're waiting a scope review meeting between the consultant and the town, which is anticipated at the end of this month. And that's all I have for right now.
Great. Thanks, Daryl. Any questions for Daryl? All right, move on to District 3. Ann?
So we have Leominster Route 12 reconstruction. That is project number 604499. That is at 100%. The PS&E is due in the early part of May. Continuing to work on right-of-way and getting the environmental permitting done. Fitchburg Bridge replacement, Water Street over Boulder Drive and Pan Am Railroad, and Water Street over North Natural River. That is project 608189. That's at 100%. The PS&E is due next week. Similarly, right-of-way plans are right-of-way is being worked on, and environmental permitting is being completed. Leominster, oh, that's another Leominster Route 12. The Fitchburg Leominster Twin City Rail Trail construction, phase 2, that is project 609411. That is at PS&E. Environmental filings are being done, and right-of-way is being worked on.
Great. Thanks, Ann. Any questions for Ann? All right. We'll move on to Mart. George?
Yes, I have just one item. As part of the Fair Share program, MART implemented several new services to its bus route system in the MART region. Earlier this year, MART implemented new bus routes in Gardner, and also Sunday service in Gardner and Atoll. And just last Sunday, April 14, we implemented a new service, Sunday service in Fitchburg and Leominster. Hopefully the people will start using it, and we already saw the ridership going up. And we're still running a ferry-free service on all our bus fixed routes until June 30 of this year. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, George. Questions for George? All right, we'll move on to the JTC updates. Brian?
Yep, as we've been doing throughout the whole TIP and UPWP process, the JTC met last week and reviewed both those draft documents. And I forgot to mention at the time we're discussing the items that they did make a recommendation to the MPO that released for public comment, which you did. So that has been a topic of discussion going back to January. We'll meet again May 8th is the next meeting, 2:30 remote meeting. And the plan is to go over any comments received during that comment period to date. Also review the TIP amendment that we just put out for a comment as well for the first time with the JTC.
Great, thanks, Brian. Any questions for Brian? Right, move on to MRPC updates. Glenn?
Mr. Chairman. Glenn here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a couple of staff, a couple of planners leaving the Planning Development Department. We posted their availability of a couple of these positions, one that's vacant now, one that'll be vacant toward the end of the month. We have a 2-week internal posting policy that'll end around the 30th, and we can advertise externally around May 1 or May 2. So if anybody wants to take the written report that's there and share it with anybody in the local town halls to spread the word, we'd appreciate that. That's all I have. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, great. Thank you, Glenn.
I do have one addition under that. We also, as we've mentioned at these meetings, we've been looking for to hire a transportation planner, which we did. Grace Belmont started with us on April 1st, so she's here today. And we've been a person down since January, so we're happy to have Grace on board.
Okay.
One other thing that I wanted to point out was our Safe Streets for All Safety Action Plan survey. I don't believe I went over this at last month's meeting, but this survey is available on our website. This is to inform our safety action plan through the Safe Streets for All program. You can see on our homepage under announcements, you can click to the plan. This is available up until May 8th. So if you haven't already, please consider taking the survey.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Any other questions on that?
I would like to add that our consultant WSP will be out in the region at man tables and I'll be in communities throughout the region over the next several weeks. As Brian said, the survey will end May 8th. So on Friday they'll be at around 6 communities this Friday at man tables talking about the survey and talking about the safety plan. So hopefully you might run into them as you go about your business on Friday. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, George. All right. With that, we'll move on to administrative matters. Next MPO meeting is listed here. That will be May 15th at 1 p.m. Is that right, Brian?
Yep, that's correct. And we'll be reviewing the comments received for the 3 action items, the public comment period items. And we do anticipate possibly additional amendments to the current active TIP as well. So there's a few things that should be on the agenda.
Great. All right. Sounds good. Does anyone else have any other business? All right, seeing none with that, we'll move on to adjournment, which I think we can just do by a voice vote here. So I'll just ask for a motion and second to adjourn.
Laura
So
Schiffern,
moved. Teacher.
Motion made by
Second.
Laura, second by Ann. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed?
Thank you.
All right, I think
Thank you.
section we're adjourned. So thank you, everyone, and we'll see you back here in May. Have a great rest of the day. Thanks all.
Yeah, you too.